We have a whole course on serving alcohol responsibly, but we just have a couple of slides here because there's a couple of questions on this test on serving alcohol responsibly. Now it's much more complicated than this, a lot more factors, so I almost hesitate to even have this, except I have to because I know there's some test questions on it. So in the first hour, these are just very ballpark. Small person, figure 1 to 2 drinks in the first hour. A medium-sized person, 2 to 3 drinks. A large person, 3 to 4 drinks. But then they can only drink 1 per hour regardless of their body size in addition to that because the liver can only process 1 an hour. So it's going to take 4 hours for that large person who had 4 drinks to get that out of their system. So once you get the first hour done, you need to slow down and just 1 drink per hour, regardless of your body size. Again, very general. It's more complicated than that in terms of age and female versus male and body type. If you're fat, or you can be large. Large doesn't necessarily mean fat, right? If you're fat, so all that factors in, and you'll get that when you take our serving alcohol responsibly course. To slow the absorption of alcohol into your system, meaning to have it take longer to get into your bloodstream, which is what counts for your blood alcohol content that the cops are looking for. My theory of life is you don't have to be the world's greatest anything. You just need to be better than the people that were there before you and the people that are there with you. So that's our intention for this class. We're not going to make you a sommelier. Most places don't even have a sommelier, and it's not really necessary in most circumstances. We are intending to make you smarter than you were yesterday. So that's what we want you to get out of the class. I want you to have a sense of why the gentleman is swirling his glass, slurping his wine, and staring at the legs. You wouldn't suggest a red wine with a delicately flavored fish. If somebody wants it, you give it to them, but you wouldn't suggest it. Here, your people would make more tips if you knew something, anything, about 5 wines that you could suggest to your customers. You ask the waiter, well, what do you suggest? And the waiter says, well, We're going to cover a lot of information. Keep that book. I thought it was a great book. That's why I picked it for this class. As I said, I put the two books together so you have a piece of two books that we custom, that's what Pearson does, custom created our book. Lots of good information. Keep that book. You won't remember all this stuff, but when your boss wants something special, you can run to the book. So I believe everybody needs a little library, and if you do all of our certifications. Now, things like this are just good for general wine consumption. We're certainly not going to test you on how many liters Spain produces, but it's just good to have general information so you know where wines come from. When you go to the store, you know what to look for. And Italians must have good wines in French because they're the leaders of the market. And maybe you didn't even think of Spanish wines, so they're twice as big as the U.S. and U.S. than Argentina. Forecasted world production to 28 million liters. That's a lot of wine. The drinkers reverse who's one and who's two, so the French drink more than the Italians. Hard to imagine. Maybe because there's more of them. I'm not sure. I don't remember. The U.S. is in third, then Germany, and then Spain. So these are consumption. For the novice wine consumer, which would include me and 99% of the people that I know, there's four perspectives. One is there is no bad wine, kind of like a cruise. You know, they're all good. Some better, some worse, but they're all good. Which is not to say that a good wine can't go bad. Perse- A study of 869 wine drinkers showed that 64% consider themselves novices, 44% are intimidated by wine lists, wine can be divided into three categories. One would be table wine, which is made to be drunk at the table with meals, just your standard every night, what you're going to have with your meal. The alcohol content for those is generally 8 to 15%. Sparkling wine, like champagne, consists of table wine as the base, It's not uncommon, including me, that people buy based on the look of the bottle. My thought is if they spent that much time and money to develop a beautiful bottle, a beautiful label, then probably the wine is good too. It's like a restaurant, right? If the bathroom's clean, you assume the kitchen is clean. If the label looks really sharp, I would think the winery would look really sharp. On this label, you can see the winemaker or the winery, the company or firm that made the wine, or the wine's trademark name, which would be Paul Jaboulet Arnay, something like that. You would see the appellation, the geographic location where the grapes for this wine were grown. This may be as broad as California or as narrow as a specific vineyard like Trittenheimer Alterschen. So there you see it's La Chapelle. And the vintage, this is the year in which the grapes were harvested, not the year in which the wine was bottled, which for some wine might be years later when it's actually bottled. So this is the year it was harvested. So let's discuss what it is that I'm not going to make you, which is a sommelier. The sommelier, or wine steward, specializes in all aspects of wine service. They'd be associated with high-end restaurants where they contribute value and prestige to the customer's wine purchases, meaning you can charge more if you have a sommelier on board, as they make the wine sound like it's worth more, right? They got all the fancy words, and they can just spark it up, and they're so passionate about what they do that the customer is going to say, you know what, I'll try some of that. They would suggest the pairing of food with a particular wine, sometimes printed on the menu, and with a gift